There is a brand new and growing industry in America, and even though it is very immoral, it is very legal. First, you find a wealthy, elderly person, and then you take their money. And it is all, believe it or not, within the law. It's similar to what we've seen with the Free Britney hashtag floating around on social media. Britney Spears amassed a huge fortune at a very young age. Her estranged father now controls her estate and pays himself about $1.2 million a year to handle her affairs for her as her court-appointed guardian. And that may sound like something that only happens to celebrities, but it could happen to you or your mother or your grandmother. Now imagine a scenario where you hire caregivers to help with your parent or your grandparent who needs help at home as they're getting older. Now these caregivers that you have hired go to a judge and they have your family member declared incompetent and they name you and your siblings a threat. Now the court-appointed guardian controls everything. An estimated 1.5 million adults are under the care of guardians, and those people control approximately $273 billion in assets. And former New York City Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik is here, along with the Executive Director of CEAR, Rick Black. Thanks to both of you for being here with me tonight. Now, Commissioner, how did stealing from the elderly become such big business in America?
Well, I think it's become big business because nobody knows about it. Nobody pays any attention to it. And Rick can talk on this one specific issue more. But I have to tell you, as somebody that was in law enforcement for 30, 35 years, I only became aware of it when I was asked by a woman, an elderly woman by the name of Joanne Bashinski in Birmingham, Alabama, to come in and look at what the city and the state there was doing to her. About probably a month after I actually met her, she passed away. But I have to tell you, Gina, it stunned me. It baffled me and it scared the hell out of me to listen to her and what happened to her. And basically, she had two employees. She fired. The next day, they went into court. They told the court that she had dementia. And within weeks, those two employees were now responsible for everything she owned. And she was extremely, extremely wealthy. So it was stunning to learn, to hear. But what's more stunning is that it's happening all over this country and people aren't paying attention to it.
And for sake of full disclosure, I should say that I am familiar with that family. I got my broadcasting start in Birmingham, Alabama, and that family are friends of mine, and that's how I know about this issue as well. But it's not isolated to this family. This is happening all over the country, Rick, and the more it happens, sadly, the more copycat examples there are. Rick, there are a lot of Americans at risk of this happening to them. Tell us about that.
Yeah, to your lead in, we estimate that there's 1.5 million vulnerable adults under guardianship or conservatorship in the country. It gets very little oversight, to Bernie's point. It's all handled within a civil court, equity court environment. I derisively call that the family squabbles court because it gets very little funding and very little oversight. And in that vacuum of oversight is where predatory attorneys have learned over the last 50 years, it's pretty lucrative ability to make money through guardianship, conservatorship, trust, and other sundry probate frauds. It doesn't happen in every case. If it did, law enforcement folks like Bernie in his previous role and others around the country would engage, but it happens at small enough level that it's been really hidden from the public. Most victims don't speak out because they're truly vulnerable and have lost that ability to fight back. And most family members don't know that they're being scammed by the predatory legal community. The Joanne Bashinski case creates a unique opportunity for activists like myself, as well as Brad Lund, the grandson of Walt Disney, Britney Spears and her troubles, because it's putting a face on this and really elevating it so the public sees it for what it is.
Commissioner, unfortunately, a lot of families, once their loved one has passed on, they're tired. They've spent a lot of time and money. They're emotionally exhausted. Certainly that is the case with Mrs. Bashinski's family as well, but they decided they're going to fight. And that's a little bit unusual, but because most families don't fight, a lot of these cases just get swept underneath the rug, and it leaves this whole array of people out there vulnerable to this to continue to happen. So is there a way that you know of that this can be stopped? Is there a movement to stop this? Tell us about that.
Well, I think the biggest movement, one of the biggest movements to stop it is Rick Black and SEER and what they're doing, bringing light to it, taking it to U.S. attorneys, taking it to the Justice Department, local prosecutors, and giving them cases where this stuff is overwhelming. In the Bashinski case, I have to tell you, when I personally met with her, I sat with her for 4 hours after reading a bunch of documents and hearing how she had dementia. And I was stunned to sit in a room with her and realize that she didn't have dementia at all. She was extremely, bright. She was engaging. She was knowledgeable. She remembered dates and times and places and, docket numbers, court dates, things that had happened to her. There was no dementia in this woman. And I was taken back by the fact that once I had a team of investigators start looking at this, the same judge and the same guardian was involved in a number of these cases, the same types of cases, with other family members that have come forward to say, look, they're depleting her, their loved ones' financial assets. They've sold their property. They have them in a nursing home. One woman died in a nursing home. These are all things that my guys will be looking at. But I'll tell you something. I'm dumbfounded at the fact that this stuff is happening all over the country, and there's very little attention on it.
So Rick, what can families do? Where can they go if they want to prevent this happening to them? And how can people, if they're just concerned citizens who want to get involved and to be helpful so that this doesn't happen to other people? Because this is one of the most tragic things you can think of. This is heartbreaking. Everyone who knows this story about what happened to Mrs. Bashinski, they cry when they hear the story. It really is heartbreaking.
No, it is. And there's about 10,000 new victims every year, and it's growing. Our guidance is this: keep your loved ones close. Distance creates opportunities for predators. Talk to them, preferably see them every week, talk to them every couple of days, particularly when they're alone. Because wealthy people who are alone, as Mrs. Bashinski was the case, they're easily targeted, and often by those that have the greatest access to them. So close the distance, number one. Secondly, get those critical estate documents executed, notarized, that assign an agent as your durable power of attorney holder, preferably a backup as well, and the healthcare advance directive. Those two documents are, in fact, today more important than your will, because these people are going to make their move while you're still alive, preferably while you're alone or vulnerable due to illness or injury. So close the distance, get the documents signed, and most importantly, give those documents to a trusted loved one, a legitimate protector who, if you get targeted, will come to your aid. Because the most important thing any family member can do, once you've been introduced into the probate or equity court environment, is to fight for your rights. And that means forcing a judge to uphold the law. And doing that as a common citizen, it's like sending a little leaguer into an NFL field. If they don't really understand what their rights are and are a good fighter, they're going to lose. And that's really what's been going on the last 50 years in this country. We use a phrase, coined a phrase, Dr. Gina, to define what goes on: estate trafficking. These are predators who recognize they can traffic an estate at pennies on the dollar to acquire it and distribute it to unintended third parties. And it is a crime. It is embezzlement. It is extortion. It is exploitation. It is theft. Federally, it's fraud: wire, bank, mail fraud. But until we get the criminal elements and that material evidence elevated, it's going to be tough to get true law enforcement to engage. We hope that's changing. What we do know is the environment that creates the opportunity for fraud has no interest in cleaning it up, as we've seen under Judge Alan King in Jefferson County, Alabama.
Last question to you, Commissioner. What are the chances that these bad players in Birmingham, Alabama that did this to Mrs. Bashinski are punished?
Well, I think that's what we're looking at now. We're looking at the judge. We're looking at the guardian. We're looking at a number of lawyers. And it's almost like an incestuous group of people that's involved. And I can tell you they're involved in a number of cases. I don't want to get into the investigation, but I think the evidence is overwhelming. And at some point, we'll be taking that evidence and turning it over to DOJ Washington or the U.S. Attorney in Alabama.
Both of you, Commissioner Bernie Kerik, Rick Black, from the Center for State Administration Reform. The website, everyone go here. Make sure that you're familiar with this issue. Be helpful if you can. Make sure that your loved ones are protected. It's CEAR Justice, SEER Justice. CEARjustice.org is the website. And we will keep you apprised of what happens in this particular case, and we'll stay on this and make sure that justice is done here and that people are aware. Thank you both so much for being with us and bringing this issue that is largely unknown to our attention.
Thanks, Gina.